Hi, welcome to Vicky Makes and Builds. This is the third and final part of my puzzle along series on the Woodland Fantasy Garden puzzle by Clementoni. In this video I will be building the second half of the puzzle, so by the end it will be finished. I built around 50% of it in the part 2 video, and just by way of a reminder, here is where I was at the end of the last video. You can see I pretty much took a bottom-up approach on it. I started with the edge, then I focused on all the flowers at the bottom and the ones going up the gazebos. Built the gazebos as well, and did a bunch of sort of dark brown orange pieces which covered mostly the deer and the foxes. So before I start diving into the second half of this build, I just want to say a few things. Firstly, I'd like to encourage you to watch until the end of this video because I have made a compilation of photos that you who have joined in with this puzzle along have sent to me because you're happy for me to share them in the video, and I'm going to put that at the end of the video so you can see everybody's progress on the puzzle, how everybody's done with it, and it's really interesting to see all the different approaches that people have had with this puzzle. So please watch till the end if you want to see that. And thank you so much to all of you who actually sent me those pictures as well. And for posting all of your updates over in the Discord server. I know that many of you are still working on the puzzle, which is great. Keep those pictures coming along as well. And still others were waiting for this video to drop before you made a start on it. So wherever you're at with it, I would love to see and hear how you're getting on with it. If you haven't joined the Discord server and you are interested in joining, you can click the invite link in the description. It expires after 7 days. So if you click it after that 7 days has passed and it won't let you in, just leave a comment and I will renew it for you. Don't forget there is no deadline with this puzzle along. Even if you don't discover these videos until 5 years time, they will be up on YouTube forever, so you can join in with this whenever you want to. I'll leave some Amazon associate links in the description, which you can use to buy the puzzle if you like to buy your puzzles from Amazon anyway. Consider using those links because I earn a small commission from them and that all just helps the channel. I've also left links to my other videos in this series in the description, so if you're coming to this partway through and you haven't seen those yet, you can just pop down there and click on the first one. So that's it, I'm going to leave it there for the intro. Let's dive back into this beautiful 1,500 piece puzzle. Okay, so it seems like a logical place to start to look at the piles of pieces that I have left. And here they all are in these boxes in front of me. So this is my box of previously unsorted. I suppose you could feasibly call this the miscellaneous pile now. I sorted through all of them and this was the pile of kind of greenish leafy bits, I guess. I think I'll be able to sort this down further when I come to it, but this is definitely a last go-to pile for me. But that's one of the piles I've got left. This box here has pieces of the tower. This building here on the left hand side, that is what those pieces are there, and there's no other pieces in there. That's all that's in that box. This one is a bit of a mixture. These are leftover pieces. So here at the bottom there's leftover tree trunk pieces. These are pieces that I had in the puzzle before. I sort of roughly know where they go, but I can't really fit them in yet. So they were just floating and kind of annoying me, so I've just put them in there out of the way. These are brown pieces that I sorted out that I thought might go behind the deer's antlers just here because I had a wee pile of those. However, they don't go there, they go in a different spot, so they're just left over from that, and they're leftover kind of bright green pieces. So there's not many of them. I'm quite happy for them to just sit there, and I'm sure when I get to those points in the puzzle I'll be able to just grab them and put them in because I can see them all, they're all spread out. This pile here is the owls. And this box here has sky pieces and tree with sky pieces. So that's all to do with the sky there. Now, my inclination usually would be to go for the smallest pile of pieces. Now, that rules out these two, and to be honest, I sort of pretty much knew that I wasn't going to do these two next anyway. So I'm going to remove the random leafy pile, and I'm going to remove the sky pile. Initially, I thought that my owl pile was the smallest, but I'm not certain now because this pile actually looks a bit smaller. However, looking at it now, I don't know if it's because they're more spread out and these are more kind of clumped up on the left-hand side. So they might be similar sizes, but my inclination was to go for the owls next. And having had a wee rummage through the pieces, there's another reason I would like to do these next, and that is that there's quite a few background pieces within these owls that will fill in gaps in parts of the puzzle. So for example, here is just the very edge of an owl feather on this piece, and it's got the gazebo background on it. So it would likely belong to this owl that goes in this gap here, and I'll be able to fill in the gazebo gaps, but also fill in this big gap here. And it's a good way to kind of make a start on the owls. So I think this will be a good gap filler pile as well, because I'm also convinced that there might be some pieces in here that actually belong to the deer, where I've maybe mistook the brown as owl's wing instead of deer. I think it's potentially going to fill in a few gaps as well. And if I can fill gaps in, that works better for me because I don't like leaving unfinished bits behind. I like to kind of build on what I've done. I can't always do that, depends on the puzzle, but that is how I like to puzzle. So even if this pile is slightly smaller, I think I'm happier to do this one, even if it's slightly bigger. So that's just to explain my reasoning behind picking this pile next. And then probably, in fact, about 90% certain that this pile will come afterwards. So let's dig into these owls and just get on with it. Right, so what I'm doing here is really what I've been doing throughout this entire build. When a pile of pieces is pretty large, I like to sort it down further, just so I have somewhere to start and I'm not overwhelmed by just this pile of pieces in front of me that all look really similar. So I'm separating it into wee piles, getting to grips with what might go where, what might belong to which owl, and putting to one side the ones that don't belong in this pile, just to get my bearings with it. Okay, so the piles are split and they look a lot more manageable now. So this is the biggest pile. This is the pieces that are predominantly or completely feathers, white or grey feathers. I suspect most of those will go in this gap here, because if you look at the image, although there is white on the other owls, you can see a bit of white there and a bit of white there. This is the one that's biggest and has the most white on it. So I suspect a lot of those will go in there. Then we've got this pile here, which I identified as the faces of the owls, but I may have others that I've not sorted into the right pile that I maybe just couldn't quite make it out. There were some sort of textury bits to these pieces that I may just not have been sure, but I know for definite that they are faces. That is owl pieces with the gazebo in the background. Possibly there might be some owl pieces in here with the tower in the background, because there is an owl that's just sort of flying in front of the tower there. You can just see his wing coming down there. So there will be some gold background pieces there too. They might be in that pile as well. This pile is pieces where there's like brown in them. And a lot of those, the brown in most cases is on the back of the wings. And with a lot of these, you can really tell what's wing feathers. Like just the feather texture is just more obvious. So that's kind of brown / wings. This is pieces with sky in the background. This is a pile of pieces with tree in the background. I found a couple more of these. Now, that does have a little bit of owl in actually, so I think that probably goes somewhere over to the left. But this is like a white background and it's actually the sky. These pieces I found in the white flower pile because I thought they were part of the white flowers, but they're not. It's just a really light bit of the sky. So they've just kind of been collecting over there. So that's what they are. They're pieces of like the planet or moon or whatever it is up in the sky. So they don't belong to the owls at all. And they're pieces of the doves that are flying around at the base of the tower. So again, not owls at all. That's why I've put them on the outside of the puzzle. So I'll move those to one side and I'll make a start probably on these background pieces where it's gazebo. And I think what I'll do is try and work on this big owl, kind of working from the outside in. Probably be moving on to that pile after that. And we'll just take it from there. If I'm finding that the biggest owl is getting a little bit overwhelming or difficult, I can move on to maybe the sky owl pieces or the faces or something like that. But there's plenty to go at here, so I'm not worried about doing it in the wrong order. I don't think it really matters too much. That's just the way I'm choosing to do it. I'm going to start with these background pieces. So, as I suspected, those bits of owl where you can see some of the background, they went in pretty quickly and easily, and they made a good start to the actual building process on the owls. There were a couple that belonged to the tower, and I've just popped those at the top out of the way. Then I dived into the white pieces, and for the most part, what helped me put these together were the lines of the feathers. Because this is the biggest owl, you can see quite a lot of detail on the feathers, and the lines for the direction of the feathers kind of helped orient me a little bit and helped me start to put it together. There's also different shades of white. You've got kind of grey and you've got more brighter white at the bottom. So that was another thing, just using colour to help me put it together. And so yeah, it came together slow but sure. Now what invariably happens when I'm building this kind of thing is that I will start to dive into other piles before I finish the pile I am working on. So what I've done here is I've gone back and forth to that pile on the left hand side, which is the one where there's trees in the background, and obviously there were a few of those in the big owl. So I just looked to that pile just to fill in a few gaps and try and finish the owl off. You'll also see that I dived into the faces pile to pop the face of the big owl in as well. So I will do that. I'll dive in and out. Because the piles are small, once they're sorted, then it's fine. You can spread them out, you can see them all, and you just grab them as and when you need them. And that's sort of how I roll really when I'm building like this. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is a partial pile of pieces. So what I mean by that is I largely want to kind of start on the tower, but before I do start on the tower, I'm going to have a rummage through these sky pieces, and I am going to pick out all of the pieces that are part of this moon. They go behind the castle or the tower and behind this owl's wing. And I'm going to do that because I just think it's gonna, well, first of all, it's gonna make sure that this is attached to something, this owl, because it's really annoying me that that's floating. So what I'll do is I'll attach it at the top. It might also help me put together this little owl here. I have two pieces left. which I think belong to that wee owl. And also it has the effect of making this pile just a little bit smaller and more manageable. So I'm going to do a wee bit of a micro sort on this pile, but I am specifically looking for pieces like this with pink in, or with this kind of bright yellow in, that make up that planet/moon. And I'm going to get those pieces in. I'm going to get this attached, and I'm going to start to kind of build up an outline of things that are near or attached to that tower so that I can move on to it from there. And hopefully that might make it just a little bit easier to build. So that's what I'm doing next. Okay, that's really lowered that pile down a lot, although we do still have quite a few with tree in the foreground. I did separate that little pile off. That's sky, but it's like kind of more yellow, couple of sort of orangey bits of sky there. But part of the reason that's gone down quite a lot is because I pulled out more than I was going to originally. I got this box out because I popped some sky pieces in that had that tower in it. So I just popped those in there, and I'm going to put that to one side now. This is the pile I separated, and there are the ones that I said I was pulling out. That one's the ones with that planet. But there were also quite a few in there with bits of owl on, like that one and that one. And I wanted to get them out because I've largely done the owls now, and I could probably quite easily put those in. The other ones I picked out were sky pieces that were a different colour to blue, more this kind of grey colour. There's a little bit of grey sky around this owl's head. And again, I think they're going to be able to go in quite easily. A couple of wee light blue bits as well. So I've really just taken out obvious bits of sky that largely belong in this top left corner and around the owls. And I think they're going to go in pretty quickly and easily and get rid of a good chunk of sky pieces. Once I've done that, then I'm going to tackle that tower. Once all those pieces were in, I couldn't resist here just grabbing the box and seeing what other pieces I could find that I could fit in that area. Just bits with light blue, lighter shades of the gradient in the sky. But that did a really great job of getting those owls attached into the wider puzzle. Okay, so the tower wasn't easy, and I wasn't certain about obvious piles to sort the pieces further down into, so I didn't really do like a micro sort on this pile of pieces. It helped having them spread out so I could see them all, and I was picking out things like pieces with green on them. There's a few areas of kind of mossy green going up the tower. I was also picking out any pieces that had like a recognizable background, like the sky, which told me that it would go somewhere near the top. Also pieces where there was perhaps some brown, which told me that they would go near to the bottom. Otherwise, I mean, it was pretty slow going, but otherwise what I was utilizing with this tower is all of the lines in it, because what it really looks like is a bunch of kind of structures all piled on top of each other. You've got domes, you've got pillars, you've got squares, there's a triangle there, there's various different widths of lines and things, horizontally and vertically, and there's patterns on some of them. So I was trying to use the patterns to get pieces together, also using shades of gold. Some gold colours were a bit lighter and some were a bit darker. So it looks a bit chaotic, and I'm kind of spreading them out a bit. But what I'm doing is I'm putting them roughly where I think they go, and then just giving myself enough room to put it together. So it was a slow process, but it was a nice challenge, and I enjoyed just really using my observation skills, I guess, to try and notice similar patterns and things like that. Okay, so I tackled this pile similarly to how I've tackled other piles. I didn't pull them all out of the box and sort them into little piles on the board. What I did was I just kept them in the box, had them spread out, picked out ones I could see that were ever so slightly different. You can see I've got them in my hand there, and I'm just going through them one by one. These are pieces with some lighter blue to them, or oranges, or pinks, or white, or anywhere where the sky is just a different shade of blue than that dark blue that it is at the top. So that's where I'm starting off, just eliminating those more obvious pieces, which largely are in the left corner or on the left side. You can also see that I'm starting to gather a bit of a collection in the top middle there. Those are pieces with tree in, but they are pieces where there's still a lot of sky. So that indicates to me that they're kind of the top, sort of the outline of the trees. Now I'm starting to tackle the darker blue pieces, because they're the ones that now stand out among all of those leafy pieces. So that'll fill in some of the gaps in the top left, and also that row of pieces above those pink flowers. Those dark blue pieces will fill that in quite nicely. Alright, so now I'm left with the sky and leaf pieces, and I'm getting through some of those pieces that I put to one side that have a lot of sky, but now all the pieces in the box really have about the same amount of leaf to blue ratio. So here is where I start the shape sorting, and I think this is actually the first time I've shape sorted in the progress of this puzzle, and that's really just helped me along. Another thing that helped me with this bit is that the top middle tree and the right hand tree are just ever so slightly different shades of colour. So the one in the top right is just a slightly darker yellow, and it's pretty much all yellow, whereas the one in the middle has some yellow to it, but there's also some green to it. So I was kind of using that to help me along as well, but mostly I was really just putting them in here using the shape. Okay, so now the remaining few pieces I have popped in the box with the other leftovers, and I am now trying to see if I can put any of those leftovers in. In particular, the bright green pieces went in pretty easily. It was fairly easy to know that they were at the bottom, and I managed to pop a few others in as well while I was at it. Okay, that is everything done apart from leafy areas and vegetation. So what we have now is gaps pretty much all over the puzzle. Biggest one being here, that big tree at the top. This one's fairly big, and the others are just kind of varying sizes. So my aim's going to be really to just fill the gaps. Now, I do have a lot of pieces that aren't sorted, but I think they can be. So what I'm going to do is go through all of these pieces, find any with any kind of distinguishing factor about them, whether that's tree trunk or grass or moss or leaves or yellow leaves, green leaves, different colours, different textures, anything like that. I will pick out and pop them in, and then as the pile goes down, probably end up shape sorting and filling in the gaps that way. All right, so I'm going to get a piece of paper for this, and just because I find it easier sometimes to just be able to see them better than when they're in a box. Boxes have the high sides and often can cast shadows over the pieces, so I'm going to use a piece of paper just now. And yeah, just go through these piece by piece. So these are the kind that I would put to one side because these have a pinkish sky background, which suggests to me that they go in here or thereabouts. Then we've got that one, which appears to be bird. I think actually that goes there. There we go. Then other ones, like there's a couple that I've missed that have blue sky, dark blue sky, so they're going to likely go somewhere near the top. Another one there, another one there. We've got these ones with this brighter greenish yellow plant, which I know go on the bottom. I think they go in some of the gaps on the bottom right here, so there's those. That looks like a bit of the poles. Some sky there. Again, a little bit of owl's wing, I think, there. So I'm just kind of just generally piling them up. I think if it gets so that there's a lot of them and they all start to get a bit mixed up, I'll put a few in and then come back and do this again. So these are the kinds of things I'm looking for, really. A little tiny bit of purple flower on that. That looks like part of the tower. This is part of one of the owls. Blue sky. I think that's part of the tower. I think that goes near the bottom. And as I'm going through them, I notice other things that I maybe sort of take a mental note of and think, right, well, I'll perhaps look for that next time. That's a bit of owl. Bit of berry there. That looks like a little bit of bird or something like that. Another bit of berry. Bird. So already I've got quite a growing pile of pieces here. I think that's the top of one of the gazebos. So I'm just going to keep going through like that until I've got a good bunch, and then I'll pop them in and I'll come back and I'll pretty much do the same thing again. So after pulling out and filling in the gaps for all the really obvious places, that is where there's sky in the background or up on the top of that tower, or areas at the bottom where the colours are just different, the textures are just different. Once all those obvious pieces were pulled out and done, it really chipped down the pile a lot. As you can see, it's a lot less dense in the box. At this point, I'm now pulling out yellow pieces. There are some patches of quite yellow leaves against, you know, as opposed to green, there are also lots of areas of green leaves. So I thought, well, I'll pull those out. There are some areas on the left-hand side, there's an area at the bottom, and a couple of areas on the right-hand side where there are patches of yellow leaves. So it really was just a case of just pulling those out, finding where those fit in. Obviously, I've slowed down a bit at this point, but that was still a little bit of narrowing down that I could do. And then until these little gaps spread across the puzzle really are quite small, we're looking at 2 and 3 piece gaps here. And the biggest one is that tree at the top middle. So I'm sort of largely ignoring that and just trying to fill in all the rest until, again, you can see there's hardly any pieces left. And ultimately I will start to shape sort, which you can see I'm doing it right here. Starting to shape sort, and any that I pick out as I'm shape sorting that I recognise, I'll pop those in. And yeah, that's it really. It's just a case of finding the right place using the shape until the puzzle is finished. So there we have it, the Woodland Fantasy Garden 1500 piece puzzle by Clementoni is finished. I enjoyed this so much. I wasn't sure how it was going to be with the image being so busy, but I actually feel like the build went quite smoothly. There were plenty of different sections that I could work on. None were really too big or overwhelming. The hardest part, I'd say, were the leaves at the end, but even they had some variety in colour and texture. And then shape sorting pretty much took care of the rest. I was happy with the quality too. I really do like the woven texture on these pieces. I love the image quality. It's nice and vibrant, and it really does justice to Ciro Marchetti's gorgeous artwork. And my favourite part to build, I would say, were the owls. Overall, if I was to describe my method of building this, I would say I did a gradual sort. It's the best way I can describe it, to be honest. What I mean by that is that I did an initial sort, And I'd say it was of sort of medium thoroughness. I did have an unsorted pile, and there were a couple of piles that were just slightly on the larger side. But then what I did was as I approached each pile, I micro-sorted them so that I had somewhere to start with them. So I kind of sorted as I went along as well, which is what I mean by a gradual sort. That's just the way I like to build, because it means I'm spending less time on doing a super thorough sort at the beginning, which can be really efficient, but I just get too eager to start on the build. So it's just a way of building that suits me. So you can feel free to use my videos as a guide if you'd like to tackle it the same way I did, or you can just use roughly my method and maybe change the order that you build the piles of pieces. That's entirely up to you, but they are here for you if you get stuck or if you just aren't sure where to start. One tip I will just give you for anyone who's a bit overwhelmed by the slightly higher piece count of this puzzle, my advice would be to sort it as best you can and tackle the smaller piles of pieces first. The larger piles of pieces, put them away in a tub or on a tray or somewhere, put them out of sight so you're not looking at this pile out the corner of your eye or in front of you while you're building and feeling like they're kind of looming ahead of you. If you're feeling that kind of sense of overwhelm, it's better to just put them out of sight, don't think about them, and just treat the puzzle as lots of small chunks. A good way to start is with the edge and then with the bright and colourful flowers at the bottom. There are lots of different coloured flowers, and they're in small little batches, really. There aren't millions of yellow flowers or millions of purple flowers. There's a little bit of everything, so it's a good point to start if you can sort out those bright colours and work on those first. And eventually, when you've done enough of those small chunks, you'll find the puzzles really coming together and the larger piles won't look quite so daunting. So that would be my advice with regard to trying to manage the piece count. And if you have any questions for me, then please feel free to ask me in the comments, or you can pop over to the Discord server and ask me in there. I'm happy to help and answer any questions. Above all, just take your time and enjoy the process. If you are really not feeling it, there is no shame in putting the puzzle away. Take a break from it, pop it to one side and come back to it at a later point if you want to do that. The main thing is that you enjoy. So I really hope you've enjoyed this puzzle along series. I know I've had an absolute blast with it, and I'm so happy that so many of you have joined in. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. You can become a member of Vicky Makes and Builds if you're interested in extra puzzle content, and please leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of the first puzzle along on my channel. Would you love to see more of them? Did you join in with this one? How did you find the puzzle? Or are you waiting until this video's done and going to start it then? I love to hear your thoughts. Please keep me posted. Let me know, and don't forget you can join the Discord server if you want to share your progress pictures. There is a channel in there for puzzle alongs and for this puzzle along, and you can share your pictures and ask any advice. Everyone's just so lovely and helpful and friendly over there. It's really a nice place to be, so please do feel free to pop in there as well. I shall leave you now with the compilation of photos that I mentioned earlier. Thank you again to all of those who sent photos for me to share. I hope you enjoy looking at all the progress pictures and seeing how everybody approached the puzzle. And yeah, I will just say happy puzzling for now, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye! I'm going to do my first puzzle pickup of the year. Now this could, I really don't know how this is going to go. This could disintegrate. I don't mind, that's fine, I'm going to put it away anyway, but I thought I'd give it a try. I've never picked up a 1,500 piece before, so let's see. Picking it up. Da, 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 da. Oh, one piece fell out. And another one sort of came out. That's not too bad. There we go. Yay!